So here, this is a construction machinery, and we were required to determine degree of freedom for this construction machinery, and we counted the total number of links to be 9, and it is also given in the figure. If you see, look at it closely. So if you look at it closely, the total number has already been counted and it is given in the figure, that is 8 including 0, it becomes 9. So total 9 number of links are there. You can also count over it, and if you have any issues, you can ask to me. The number of joints, so number of joints we have counted as 1, 2, 3, 4, और यहाँ पे 2 आ जाएगा because there are 3 links. So 4 और 2 6, and this is again a cylindrical joint. See, so 7. Here it is 8, it is 9, it is 10, and this is 11. So total number of joints are 11. Okay, you can just count over it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 4, 1, 5, 1, 6, 1, 7, 1, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, and then the number of degree of freedom for each joint. तो यहाँ पे देखिए डिग्री ऑफ फ्रीडम, यहाँ रोटेटरी जॉइंट है, सो इट विल बिकम 1 degree of freedom. So 1, it is a cylindrical joint, and you must keep in your mind that when we talk about spatial degree of freedom, the cylindrical joint has 2 degrees of freedom. But when we talk about planar systems, the cylindrical joint has only 1 degree of freedom. So you must keep in this mind, in your mind, that the cylindrical joints have 2 degree of freedom in case of spatial conditions and 1 degree of freedom in case of planar conditions. Okay. In planar conditions, the cylindrical joint can only slide. Okay, it cannot rotate. So it acts like a slider joint or a revolute joint. So it has only 1 degree of freedom. So let's again count the degrees of freedom for each joint. So एक cylindrical joint, यहाँ पे 2 हो जाएगा. So 1 plus 2, that is 3. यहाँ पे भी 2 हो जाएगा, तो 3 और 2 5. रोटरी जॉइंट 6, 1 7, 1 8, यहाँ पे 2 हो जाएगा, 8 2 10, 11 12 और 13, so 13. So total number of degrees of freedom for each joint is 13. So I have just written the equation, that is 6 NL minus NJ minus 1 plus sum of individual mobility, so that is 13. So it becomes minus 5. So I hope it is clear by now. If anyone has any question over this, then he can ask. Otherwise, I will go to one more problem for determining the degree of freedom. Look at this figure. So in this figure, this is a spatial gear combination. Okay, or you can say this device is called differential. Okay, a differential has a set of gears. You see P1 is a planetary gear, P2 is another planetary gear, S1 and S2. These two um, are sun gears, okay, and they are connected in such a way when you turn your vehicle from one end, the other end rotates for the longer displacement than the closer one. So when you turn your vehicle, this part will take a longer distance, and this part will take a shorter distance. So this kind of device is called a differential gear system. Now see, in this differential gear system, here is a wall where it is fixed. Okay, this is input shaft, and this whole input shaft is connected to this gear. There is no relative motion between this input shaft and this gear, okay, because as this shaft rotates, this gear also rotates. So similarly, there is no relative motion between this shaft, this out, and this gear. So this is output shaft, this is input shaft, or you may consider anyone as input and output. I am just taking it for my ease. So this whole thing will become one link because there is no relative motion between this gear and this shaft. Okay, so this whole gear along with this shaft is one link. Similarly, this whole gear along with this shaft is another link. This whole gear with this shaft is on one link. Similarly, this whole gear with this shaft is also one link. तो टोटल चार तो ऐसे हो गए, 1 2 3 4, तो चार लिंक ऐसे हो गए. इसके अलावा ये एक फ्रेम है, सी इज ए फ्रेम, ओके, एंड दिस सी, all the things move, all these gears, they rotate with respect to this frame. So this is again one link because there is a relative motion with this frame and all these shafts. Okay, so and all these things move with respect to this wall, the fixed link. So चार तो गियर हो गए, एक फ्रेम हो गया, this C, and then there is this wall, the fixed link. So total number of links are 6. Okay, and how many number of joints? तो अगर आप देखिए, there is one joint here, one revolute joint, एक joint इधर हो गया, दो joint इधर हो गया, ओके, तीसरा joint इधर हो गया, चौथा joint इधर हो गया, और पांचवा इधर भी एक ऐसा अलग से निशान बना दिया है. इट एक्चुअली मीन्स दैट देयर इज ए बॉक्स, है ना. इसको यहाँ पे एक गियर बॉक्स होता है, इसके अंदर देयर आर सम काइंड ऑफ जॉइंट, ओके. इट मे बी ए यूनिवर्सल जॉइंट, इट मे बी ए कपलिंग ऑफ द शाफ्ट. तो यहाँ पे ऐसा एक निशान बना दिया, इट मीन्स दैट देयर इज ए जॉइंट वेयर देयर इज ए रिवोल्यूट काइंड ऑफ मोशन एग्जिस्टिंग. तो one revolute joint is here, another revolute joint is here, दो, और यहाँ पे एक 3, एक 4 और एक 5, तो 5 तो revolute joint हो गए. And then how many gear joints are there? See, एक gear joint P1 और S1 के बीच है, एक gear joint P2 और S2 के बीच है, और एक gear joint P1 और P2 के बीच है. So there are 3 gear pairs. Okay, so 5 revolute joints and 3 gear pairs. So how to determine the degrees of freedom? So I will just write degree of freedom. So let's consider it as a planar assembly or a planar mechanism, because this the whole assembly seems to be existing on a plane. The whole gear system, the whole shaft moves in a plane. So I hope that it's a planar system. So I'm just trying to, you can also calculate the spatial degree of freedom, but let's consider it at the moment as a planar system. So 3, and number of links we have calculated as 6 minus total number of joints we have calculated as 8, 5 revolute joints and 3 gear joints, minus 1 plus sum of individual mobility. कितना हो जाएगा? All the joints are in this planar system are so 5 revolute joints have 5 degree of freedom, and 3 gear joints have 3 into 2, okay, because the gear systems uh, they have 2 degrees of freedom, so it will become 6. So it becomes 3 minus 3 plus 11. So degrees of freedom will become 2. So I hope that the problem is well understood by you. So similar problems will be there in your assignments also. And at this point, I'm just ending the conversation on degree of freedom. You must keep in your mind that there are 2 kinds of degrees of freedom, that is spatial degrees of freedom and planar degree of freedom. Spatial degree of freedom is valid when we talk about mechanisms which move in space. But when we talk about mechanisms which move on one plane, we consider degree of freedom to be a planar degree of freedom or a planar system. A planar system has a different equation for determining the degree of freedom when compared to spatial degree of freedom. And also, there are some exceptions which you must keep in your mind. When various links become parallel, the degree of freedom becomes 1, as I have discussed in the last class. So that's all for today regarding the degree of freedom. So there are some more problems in the book as unsolved problems, and you are supposed to go through some of them by your own choice. And now let's talk about the mechanisms, the core part of this course. So we were discussing about mechanism as a combination of link where some output, useful output motion is there. And we have also seen that degree of freedom plays a very important role while determining which kind of mechanism it is. And in our case, in this course, focus on 1 degree of freedom system. It means that if we change the position of only one link, we should be able to determine the position of other links at any particular instant. And such type of system is called Grubler's mechanism or Grubler's. So Grubler's mechanism are those mechanisms where the degree of freedom is 1. You must also notice that the degree of freedom is 1 for most of the planar system. Okay, the planar system, for an example, the crank piston assembly has 1 degree of freedom. So in many IC engines or closed systems, okay, where the chains of the link close, the degree of freedom is 1. And we can also say that we are starting with 1 degree of freedom system because it's a bit easier and can be done by using fundamental laws based on simple physics and mathematics. The complex system with multiple degrees of freedom are a bit tricky to solve, and you may need computer softwares to solve it further. So Grubbler's mechanism are those mechanisms which have 1 degree of freedom, and for this Grubbler has given a criteria which is called Grubbler's criteria for 1 degree of freedom system. So Grubbler, so as we know that the equation for degree of freedom is 3nl minus nj minus 1 plus sum of individual mobility, and we know that in the case of planar system, each joint has, in most of the cases, each joint has only 1 degree of freedom. You must also notice that the gear joint has 2 degree of freedom. So gear and cam joints do not apply to this criteria. Okay, so 3nl minus nj minus 1 plus nj is number of joints is equal to number of degrees of freedom. Each joint has 1 degree of freedom. So this should be equal to 1. Now, you must also keep in your mind that there are few exceptions. So if your mechanism has gear joint or cam joint, then you should not apply to this equation. You should not resort to this equation. So let's solve it further. We can write 3nl minus 2nj is equal to 4, or 3nl minus 2nj minus 4 is equal to 0, and this is Grubbler's criteria for single degree of freedom system. So if any system follows this equation, it means that the system has only 1 degree of freedom, and if it has 1 degree of freedom, it can be solved by simple mathematical equations, as we will discuss later in our in this course, how to determine various other parameters like position, velocity, and acceleration. So apart from this Grubbler's mechanism or Grubbler's criteria, there is one more kind of mechanism which is called Grashof mechanism. So Grashof mechanisms are those mechanisms where at least one link can fully rotate, can have a full rotation with respect to any other link. Then such a mechanism is called Grashof mechanism. So if I want to define it, I can write like in a 4-bar mechanism. So the mechanism should be having 4 links. So in a 4-bar mechanism, if one of the links can perform a full rotation relative to other link, then we say the linkage or the mechanism is called a Grashof mechanism. So in this course, we will be mainly discussing with Grubler's mechanisms and Grashof mechanisms. It means that those mechanisms where a full rotation is there, and those mechanisms where degree of freedom is 1. So how to determine if a mechanism is Grashof mechanism or not? It means that at least one link can fully rotate or not. So let's consider limiting conditions of 4-bar mechanism. So a 4-bar mechanism so let's say here is link 1, that is L1. जो पहले ऐसे होता था, if you remember, or now we have just rotated this link so that it comes to this position. So this is one limiting condition in which link L1 and then link L2,
Hello.
they become, हाँ बोलिए.
Excuse me, sir, it's not clearly visible.
Is it fine now?
Yeah, it's fine. Thank you.
Okay, so this is link L1 and we have just rotated link L1 to come here. And so this link L2, which was earlier here, has come here. So this is the whole link is L2 and L1 and L2 are collinear here. Let's say this is link L3 and this link is L0. And notice that we are considering the mechanism where at least one of the link can rotate fully. It means that 360 degree. So if you consider this triangle here, so we can write for this triangle, simple triangle rule says that L2 minus L1, it means that this arm, L2 minus L1, plus any other arm of this triangle, let's say L3. So sum of this arm plus this arm must be greater than this. So L2 minus L1 plus L3 must be greater than L0. Similarly, we can also write L2 minus L1 plus L0 is greater than L3. And if we add these two equations, let's say this is equation 1 and this is equation 2. And if we add these two equations, then we can write two L2 minus 2L1 plus L3 plus L0 must be greater than L0 plus L3. So L0, L3 cancel out, and then we can write L2 is always greater than L1. So if happening, it means that rotation is possible. see, rotation is only possible when this condition is happening. It means that collinearity happens. In this limiting condition, if this is happening, it means that this link L2 can come to this point and this L1 can take a full rotation. So in this condition, this will only happen when L2 is greater than L1. Or we say L2 is coupler, or connecting rod. This is rocker, okay? So the connecting rod is always greater than the length of crank, or the crank is shortest element in a Grashof mechanism. Okay, this says that L1 means crank, is shorter than L2, which is coupler or connecting rod. Okay. So if this condition is happening, it means that rotation is possible. Let's see one more limiting condition. In another limiting condition, we can just draw a diagram like this. Let's say this is L naught. And now, if you see here, in earlier case, we have rotated this L1 to this direction. Now let's say we are rotating L1 to this direction. Okay, here. So when we are rotating L1 to this direction, we can just make another diagram which is like this. So this is L1 and this is L2 and this is L3. So this is L1, this is L2, and this is L3. You must also note that if these two extreme conditions we have just discussed, if it is possible on a mechanism, then at least crank can rotate fully with respect to any other link or any fixed link. And in this case, the mechanism can be called as Grashof mechanism. So in this condition, we can write similar L1 plus L2, this part must be less than L naught plus L3. No? Sum of two arms must be greater than the one arm, the other arm. So we know that L1 is the crank and which is the shortest link, it generally occurs. And L2 is a coupler, which is always the longest link. So I'm just writing LS plus LL, S is for shortest and L is for longest. And two other arms, any two other arms, let's say LA plus LB. So this is again one condition which says that sum of shortest link and the longest link must be less than sum of other two links. So for a Grashof mechanism, these two conditions, one condition is that the crank must be shorter than coupler, and the other condition is that sum of the shortest link, that is L1, and the longest link, that is L2, must be less than the sum of other two links. So if these two conditions are satisfied, then we say that mechanism is Grashof mechanism. Now, let's see if this condition is satisfied. Then this angle is called transmission angle. Generally we represent it by phi, and phi is nothing but transmission angle. So transmission angle is the angle between coupler and rocker. Rocker is also called this L3 is called rocker, and it is also called driven crank. Okay, so this is the angle between coupler and rocker. और ऐसा बहुत सारे एक्सपेरिमेंट्स करके पाया गया कि ये जो एंगल फाई है ये 40 डिग्री से 140 डिग्री के बीच ही होना चाहिए so that the crank can fully rotate. It is experimentally proved. We don't have any theoretical basis for this, but अगर ये एंगल बहुत ही कम कर देंगे तो भी इसका फुल रोटेशन पॉसिबल नहीं है, और अगर ये एंगल बहुत ही ज़्यादा हो जाएगा मीन्स मोर देन 140 डिग्री तो भी इसका फुल रोटेशन पॉसिबल नहीं है. सो इफ दिस फाई in this limiting condition makes the angle 140 degree or between 40 to 140 degree, we can consider it as a Grashof mechanism. In fact, in most of the problem, this range is given. Sometimes it may be plus minus 5 or 10, but mostly it is like this. Okay. So I'm just writing this as a possible Grashof mechanism. Configuration. Also, if you see that if this link L1 rotates like this such that the phi is very small, you know, it gets very narrow, then what will happen is that there will be force which will be transmitted from L1 to link L2 and then to L2 to L3. Notice that we apply force on only one link, that is L1, and then the force is transmitted to L2 and L3. Okay, but and what we require torque, you know, ताकि L2 भी rotate कर सके और L3 भी rotate कर सके. So here the force which we apply on L1, it transmits the torque to L2 and further L2 transmits the torque to L3, and that is what we need. We don't need much linear force, we need rotary force so that the whole mechanism is efficient. So if this angle is very small or very large, then this torque transmission generally remains very low. और अगर torque transmission L2 और L3 में बहुत कम हो गया, it means that remaining energy will go to these bearings, you know, and if these bearings they are susceptible to a lot of load, they can wear out very easily or they can sometimes get burst. So this high bearing force must be avoided, and therefore when we design a mechanism we should keep this phi between 40 to 140 degree. So this is one mechanism in order to prevent the excessive wear of the joints of the bearings here and here. If we try to find out try to determine a mathematical expression for this phi, then let's say here is a mechanism. And this is the link 1, this is the link 2, this is the link 3. So let's say this is L0, this is L1, this is L2, and this is L3. And we need to find the expression for this transmission angle phi. let's connect this point to this point, and let's say this is LD, which is the diagonal length LD. Then using the cosine rule of triangle, we can simply write LD square is L2 square plus L3 square minus 2 L2 L3 cos phi. Okay, so cos phi is L2 square plus L3 square minus LD square divided by 2 L2 L3. So that is how the transmission angle can be determined, which is the function of L2 L3 and LD. Okay, and LD is the diagonal element here, which again depends on L1 and L0. So again you can apply one cosine rule over here if you know this angle, and that is why if you know this angle, this is the only one angle which you are required to know in order to determine the whole angle, whole position of all other links. So LD, if you know phi here, you can again apply one cosine rule in order to determine the LD, and then once you have LD, you can determine the transmission angle phi. So this is about the transmission angle. Now let's talk about the most common mechanism, or you can say the most common form of a system that we will be discussing in this course very frequently, and that is crank slider mechanism. Why I'm saying that we will be discussing this somewhat more than other is that crank slider mechanism is the most common mechanism which occur in many engineering systems such as pump, compressors, even very small mechanisms where a full rotation is happening. They all are somehow related to crank and sliding mechanism. So some part rotate and then some part slides. If you remember your shaper machine or slotting machine, they all are dependent on crank slider kind of mechanism. So crank and slider kind of mechanism, we generally write it like slider crank mechanism. And a slider crank mechanism, if I wish to draw, I can draw it like this. So there is this crank, and this crank is connected to connecting rod, and this connecting rod is attached to an element. Let's say here it is piston, which slides inside this cylinder. So this piston, so here it is a slider which slides, here it is a crank which rotates, and this mechanism is called slider crank mechanism. Slider crank mechanism can have two limiting conditions which actually defines the stroke length of this piston. So what is a stroke length? Stroke length simply means that the maximum distance covered by this piston in a full rotation. तो अगर आपका crank यहाँ आ गया, let's say the crank is here, then your piston will be somewhat here. If your crank is here and the connecting rod will be collinear with it, and again when your crank is here, then the piston will be somewhat here. So the difference between these two limiting position is called stroke or stroke length. Stroke length is nothing but the distance between two limiting positions of slider. Okay. What happens at the limiting condition? As soon as, see, it is rotating, as soon as it comes here, then what happens? Piston comes here. So limiting condition, in limiting condition, what happens to piston is that piston has zero velocity in this limiting condition. इसका मतलब है कि एक बार क्रैंक यहाँ है और यहाँ है, और या आपका पिस्टन यहाँ पर है और यहाँ पर है. It means at maximum position or minimum position, the piston has zero velocity. And very high acceleration and inertial forces. And that is also the reason why you need to apply extra force when your piston is in limiting condition. अगर आप कभी भी if you ever try to experience by pushing your own hand, over this crank, and if the crank is here or here, you need to give extra force. If your crank is here, somewhat here, it is easy to rotate, but when it is here or here, you need to apply some extra force, because very high inertial forces exist at the limiting condition, and this happens at the piston end. What happens at the crank end is, at this limiting position, the crank has zero angular velocity. And very high angular acceleration. और आपको ये भी ध्यान रखना चाहिए कि जब वेलोसिटी ज़ीरो हो गई और एक्सेलरेशन बहुत हाई है, तो उस एक्सेलरेशन के कारण इनर्शियल फोर्सेस बहुत ही ज़्यादा हो जाते हैं सिस्टम में. तो इनर्शियल फोर्सेस अगर बहुत ही ज़्यादा है तो वो सिस्टम के लिए बहुत ही कैटास्ट्रॉफिक है. सिस्टम में फेल एट दीज लिमिटिंग कंडीशंस. So the system, when I say system may fail, it means that structural integrity may fail, or there may be a lot of strain, or they may just break down. So all these things may happen when the limiting condition is there. So these two limiting conditions happen at piston and crank. You must also notice that whenever this, if say I'm writing this is the wrist point C, and if let's say this is O1, so when O1 is the point where the crank is connected to fixed link, so when O1 and C means the wrist point, they are they go through center of the crankshaft. Okay, तो अगर ऐसा आपका क्रैक इधर है और ये सारा सब कुछ एक लाइन में आता है, then this linkage is called inline slider crank mechanism. Okay, so I can write that when O1 and C they are in one line, or better to write the path of C, you know, extended path of C, otherwise you get confused. Path of C are in one line, then this kind of mechanism is called inline slider crank mechanism. Later on, we will further discuss how the inline and offset slider crank mechanisms are different and how we can use them for our own purpose, whether for any kind of mechanism we should use an inline slider crank mechanism or an offset slider crank mechanism. So when it is inline, it simply means that, let's say the crank length is R. Let's say this crank length is R. So in this case of inline slider crank mechanism, what will be the stroke length? तो stroke length क्या हो जाएगा? आप this crank is moving from one condition to this condition. तो इसका मतलब है this piston is moving from this condition to this condition. So this length, from when this crank moves from this position to this position, it travels this distance, this linear distance, and it is nothing but 2r. देखिए r इधर और r इधर 2r. So total stroke length will also be 2r. It means that twice of crank length. और इसमें एक चीज और है कि the time which is taken by crank to travel from one extreme position to another extreme position is also the time for the piston to move from one extreme position to another extreme position. And you must notice that this is all the condition of inline slider crank mechanism. इसका ये भी मतलब है कि यहाँ से यहाँ जाने में जितना वक्त लगा उतना ही वक्त यहाँ से यहाँ आने में लगा. इसका मतलब है कि ये पिस्टन एक पोजीशन से दूसरे पोजीशन तक जाने में जितना वक्त ले रहा है उतना ही वक्त उसको यहाँ से यहाँ आने में लग रहा है. तो we can say that the return time is equivalent to push time. Okay. So we can just write that return time is same as push time. Push means forward motion और इसको बोल सकते हैं आप forward motion. Forward motion is equivalent to return motion, or forward motion time is equivalent to return motion time, which in many cases is not desirable. कब ऐसा हो सकता है? जैसे आपका कोई भी कटिंग टूल है, तो अगर आपके पास ये कटिंग टूल है, so you need this cutting tool to go back, to go into this. ये लेट्स से ये आपका वर्क पीस है जिसके ऊपर ये कटिंग टूल जा रहा है ना. ये स्लॉटिंग अगर आपने शेपिंग किया है ना, तो ये शेपर का टूल है, एंड इफ दिस इज गोइंग from this point to this point, it is taking some time, let's say t1, and this is useful time, but when it comes back from this position to this position, it actually does not remove the material. It removes the material when this tool moves from this point to this point. That is useful point, a useful time, forward motion. लेकिन रिटर्न मोशन में क्या है, ये कोई मटेरियल तो रिमूव नहीं कर रहा है, तो हमको क्या चाहिए कि ये जो रिटर्न मोशन हो वो बहुत ही क्विक हो, ताकि हमारा टाइम बच जाए। अगर वो यहाँ से यहाँ आने में कम टाइम ले रहा है, तो इसका मतलब है कि हमारा सिस्टम ज़्यादा यूजफुल है ना। तो इस तरह का सिस्टम इनलाइन स्लाइडर क्रैंक मैकेनिज्म में पॉसिबल नहीं है, और इसलिए ऑफसेट स्लाइडर मैकेनिज्म को डिफाइन किया गया। तो ऑफसेट स्लाइडर क्रैंक मैकेनिज्म में क्या होता है कि अगर हम यहाँ से यहाँ जाए और जो रिटर्न स्ट्रोक हो, मतलब यहाँ से यहाँ है, वो उससे छोटा हो, तो forward stroke is larger than return stroke, and that kind of mechanism is more efficient, and we will discuss in the next class what is offset slider crank mechanism. And then we will also discuss that which kind of mechanism is used in your shaper machine or slotting machine, and many mechanisms of lathe and milling machine, they also have this kind of crank, some sort of crank and slider mechanisms in them. So meanwhile, I will also request you to go through many mechanisms which are available on social media sites like YouTube. So just go through various mechanisms and just try to see. I'm just writing some of these mechanisms which you are supposed to go through. That is Oldham coupling, universal coupling, and this elliptical trammel, pantograph, और भी बहुत सारी मैकेनिज्म है। अगर आप एक सीविंग मशीन को देखना चाहें तो दिस सीविंग मशीन में बहुत सारी मैकेनिज्म्स हैं। So you just try to observe those mechanism कि किस कौन सा पार्ट फुल्ली रोटेट करता है और कौन सा पार्ट स्लाइड करता है या अदर काइंड के मोशन करता है। तो आप इसको देख सकते हैं in a sieving machine. So you are supposed to observe all those mechanisms meanwhile. So that's all for today. Does anyone has any question?